It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Robin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchendu. Thanks a lot for joining us. I hope you had a good week. The year is slowly winding down. A lot of us are excited and grateful to have seen through 2020. Yes, we'll have a couple of weeks to go, but I mean, making it to the end of this year, what a year it has been. A lot of us are very grateful for that. But December is here, and December comes with a lot of activities, festivities, or what we like to call these days Detty December, when every day seems to be either a party or a concert. I know this year seems a little more tame than usual because, of course, we know what COVID has done, and to the fact that people can't necessarily gather in mass across the city, across the country. But we have already started seeing posters and flyers of concerts holding across the state. People have been partying, whether we like it or not. And we're going to try and figure out today how the country is going to cope with what seems to be a second wave. The federal government has ordered that isolation centers be reopened. We're seeing numbers across Europe and the US spiking again. And there's fears that Nigeria would also sadly join that trend, because a lot of people are also going to be returning from these other countries and joining what is going to be a pretty hectic December celebration here. So we're going to be talking with some guests to help us hopefully navigate the waters of the Detty December. Hopefully we'll come out of it clean. I'm joined by Dr. Ugonnaya Igwilo, who's a physician and a public health consultant. Thanks for being here today. Can you hear me?
A balancing act that can actually be done when it comes to, people responding to it. So there's actually a way around it.
Okay, can you hear me, Dr. Ugonnaya Igwilo? Can you hear me? Okay, let me try that again. I can see that my guests are having a bit of a conversation there. Dr. Ugonnaya, if you're there, can you hear me?
Coming next. So, on the side of...
Okay. Okay, we're trying to work on our connection, a bit of a technical issue there. If Dr. Ugonnaya or Debola Lewis can hear me, how are you guys doing? I know you guys seem to have started the interview without me, which is fine. I just want and joining in the conversation. If you can hear me, how are you doing?
Well, that's what you said now. Just explain the truth initially.
Debola Lewis, can you hear me? This is Ebuka.
I beg. I can't come and kill myself.
Yeah, no, it's...
Okay, we're going to keep trying to get that connection there. Debola Lewis, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. Good afternoon.
Okay.
How are you?
I've been trying to get your attention. You guys have been having a conversation without me. I've been begging and screaming from here. How's everyone doing? Dr. Ugonnaya, thanks for joining us today. Let me start with you. We're talking December and all of its drama and all of its issues. We know that we've had a hectic year with the pandemic, and we're just trying to find out, what are you seeing with regards to trends? There's fears that Nigeria is going to be witnessing another spike or a second wave, like a lot of the health workers have called it. How scared should Nigerians be, or how cautious should we be with December, what we call Detty December, being around the corner?
Thank you very much again for having me. So not to scare Nigerians, I think it's more important that they be cautious in carrying out some of the precautions that have been said. We understand that, of course, because of the prolonged nature of this pandemic, a lot of people have suffered both personal, social, and even economic losses. In Nigeria, we are like we have a congregate kind of culture, want to be together. And oftentimes, it's like, because of this pandemic, comes with consequences. This COVID-19 thrives in congregate settings. So because it's primarily a respiratory virus, which means you get it through droplets from the nose, the mouth. So, and of course, people get infected when the droplets enter through their nose, their mouth, or the eyes. So oftentimes, we want people to take, that's why we emphasize the mask wearing, the hand hygiene, and all those, necessary precautions. Because a lot of people have died from this. I know that, yes, we don't get to see them, but a lot of people have, and most of them are people's fathers, mothers, children. So most times, advice is, yes, we know that this pandemic has caused a lot of, stress for people, but we always encourage that try and limit, at least during this period, to maybe your family, and even if you have to go out to do any that's just be part of either a church service. Ensure that you're wearing your masks, you're practicing the hand hygiene, the respiratory etiquette, which means coughing or blowing into your nose, and all those. And of course, if you feel ill, it's always good to stay back at home so that you don't expose those who are vulnerable as well. But I think we should be able to enjoy the celebration without, feeling, as far as we carry out those precautions.
I think what I want to ask is, there seems to be a belief, I don't know whether it's a myth or whatever it is you can call it, by Nigerians that COVID does not kill us or does not even necessarily affect us. There are people who believe because of how low the rates of infections and even lower the death rates is. I mean, we just crossed about 70,000 infection rates officially in Nigeria, with other countries hitting the million. So there's a belief that it's not a big a deal here. Is that a myth? And if it isn't a myth, why are the rates so low here? What do we have that's working for us?
Okay, so there have been so many opinions around why are we not seeing the deaths. And yes, because we usually, even though there's the talk about how, Nigeria, we've not been testing enough, because it's possible that even the second spike we are seeing is because we had more people testing. And of course, we know now, because it's December, you have more people coming in, you have the domestic flights, you have people coming in and leaving the country, and, having that within and outside travel. But at the same time, one still has to look at so in terms of those spikes, definitely, I know it has to do with the travel. Then apart from that, but in terms of myth, yes, we've had that talk that we are not dying from it. But let's remember that in fact there have been periods where we're not testing enough. So we've heard of cases of deaths, but because we could not confirm whether they died from COVID or not. So we cannot be able to pinpoint that, okay, they died of COVID. But of course, remember that of course, there's also been the suggestion that our demography is much younger than other countries. In other countries, they are much older. That is in terms of the demographic profile of their countries. And we know that those who are often at risk of the severe forms of COVID-19 are those who of course have chronic illnesses, which we find in the older generation. And of course, those who are vulnerable, like also the older, those who are older as well. So yes, we could say that our demography has confessed some form of protection for us. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that the young ones are not at risk of contracting the virus.
Okay. Let me go to you now, Debola Lewis. You are the CEO of Event Couture. You guys were one of the most hard hit, I want to believe, through 2020. A lot of events couldn't hold. But it looks like things have started picking up again. We're seeing pictures, we're seeing videos of weddings. A lot of weddings that were probably pushed back to the end of the year seem to be coming back again. There seem to be some restriction with numbers and all of that. But these days, it looks like things are almost back to normal. How much of a responsibility are event organizers taking with regards to the fact that this pandemic is still literally killing people? And what are your thoughts on the fact that certain concerts are even going to hold in December?
Okay. Well, with the concerts, I'm not very much aware of a lot of concerts. To my knowledge, I've not heard of so much concerts. But for events in general, the weddings, the social events, we as event designers, event planners, and the likes of us, what we've done is to try and sensitize, the host, the celebrants, as much as possible on enforcing social distancing with their events. The number of events. Most times, what you see on social media is one angle. So, for example, you see people partying. Probably it's really not about more than maybe 50 or 100 people in that party. But, with the picture angle and all that, it looks like a lot of people, although there's some that are taking the risk. But we are trying our best possible to sensitize and, let me use the word vehemently, and ensure that clients, follow safety protocols. Most times at events now, at the entrance, you have the disinfecting tunnel. You go through it, it disinfects you. In the numbering of, in the spacing of tables, chairs and tables, we give considerable space. Venues are reduced to most of them, even less than half capacity. So those are the measures we try to take, and everybody's of course masked up. There's sanitizers, even in gift packs, there's sanitizers, the face masks. So the consciousness is still there, the awareness is still there. So we just keep it rolling that way, and we hope people take responsibility, and then or people behave responsibly. That's the word. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what my question is now, because we find that a lot of these events, at the door, yes, there's people are wearing their masks, they go in. But I mean, you get into the event, an hour, 2 hours into it, people have had a bit to drink, the music has gotten into the body, and then you realize that there isn't that much of a regulation going on anymore. Which is why I'm asking, what do you find happens? Do you find that people are becoming a little less careful with this? Do you feel the responsibility to do this, or has it gotten to a point where you just sensitize and let people just take responsibility for themselves?
Okay, so let me try and answer a bit sincerely and a bit, like I just learned from Dr. Oju now, there's a term called pandemic fatigue. I never knew that before. Even I think I'm suffering from that. Whereby, you've gone through it for a long time and then you don't even care the consequences anymore. So that comes also, that can happen. But what we try to do, like I said again, we can't really enforce. And don't forget, we are hired. We are not the government. So we try as much as possible to just sensitize, basically. Then again, if events are intimate, the gatherings are smaller, contact tracing is easier, then by and large, those that come know each other. So it's okay to relax around them. It's like friends and family, close friends. So yes, they might want to relax a little bit around themselves. The problem might be when it's a larger gathering. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Let me go back to you now, Dr. Iguilo, and I want to talk about, the after effects of all this, because what we see that happened in Europe, that happened in the United States came from, a backlog of people having a fun summer. People got almost careless after the lockdown was lifted around July. They went to beaches and just were partying. And after the summer was over, we started seeing the numbers spike again. That is the fear with Nigeria, that January, February, we're going to see the after effects of this, especially with what people said started off with the protests, where there were a lot of people in crowded places together. The vaccine, yes, there's talks about the vaccine coming in eventually, and we don't know where Nigeria is on the queue for that. What do you see happening after this, with knowing that, this December seems a little tamer than usual, but a lot of things are still going to happen anyways?
Okay, thank you very much. So because this virus definitely is respiratory, so we know that if those precautions are not taken, like the masking, the physical distancing, it's inevitable. People will come down with it. And of course, we are seeing the influx of people coming in to celebrate. You're seeing that, like I had been discussing, the fatigue that comes with the long-term pandemic that has been ongoing. People are no longer interested. So they're looking at, what are perceived risks, and versus, how much will I lose in terms of my partying, the money I'll have to make. So people will just rather go with they'll just rather not just want to be comfortable. So definitely we're going to see those spikes. So I think what we should now be cautious about is that we want to encourage people to self-monitor. There's something we call self-monitor. So you just look out for any signs. If you're having cough, if you're having catarrh, if you notice any fever. And most times, if you've been taking, because I know in Nigeria, we commonly like to self-medicate, because most times we advise that you should contact a doctor, because there's an ongoing pandemic, our index of suspicion is very high. When someone comes with a high fever, a cough. So it's very important, because it's inevitable, especially if one has not been following those precautionary measures. So I think the best, and we're hoping that, I think the vaccine is supposed to come in by next year. We don't know that yet, and it's not everyone would be able to get that vaccine, because Nigeria only has access to 20% of it. So I think the best bet for us is to take these public health social measures very, very importantly. I think that's just the only thing we can do now, and hope that we self-monitor. At least we are seeing, the talk of reopening the isolation centers that were initially closed. So we're trying to, that is trying to be set up, so that at least we are hoping that when people notice that they have symptoms, they're coming on time, so that they don't expose other family members, and that now causes contact tracing of their own tracing of their contacts more difficult. I think that's the best we can do.
Yeah,
I hope that Nigerians will listen.
You talked there about, pandemic fatigue. I think what is even crazier for a lot of people is the lockdown fatigue. But a lot of countries have gone into a second lockdown. We saw some of the largest spikes in the United States after the Thanksgiving celebrations happened. A lot of traveling and families getting together, which is what our Christmas celebrations are here. Do you see a second lockdown coming? I mean, we're having government officials also testing positive. The Lagos State governor apparently has tested positive for COVID. Do you think there might be a lockdown in the new year?
I don't think so. In fact, usually for low-income countries, we usually don't encourage it. Like, I know a lockdown would have worked, especially if we have like an existing social welfare system where all those who are like, at those who are vulnerable will be protected. But because we have a higher number of daily income earners, you don't want to do a lockdown where you're going to have them. So the consequences of that lockdown will be worse for them than so basically, like we saw what happened the last time. We were seeing spikes in things like malnutrition, things like our childhood mortality rate just spiked up. So I don't know about the lockdown, but I know that it's not something we want to do, especially giving the state of our economy and looking at the percentage of our daily earners, our daily income earners. We don't want to further impoverish them or make them suffer.
Let me go back to Deborah now. Deborah, what sort of events are you seeing? Are you getting inquiries for the most over this period? I know usually, like I said, it will be concerts and day parties and all of that. How different is it this year? What sort of events are you getting inquiries for or bookings?
Very different. All intimate events. All intimate. 20 guests, 30 guests, private parties, all intimate events.
Yeah. But how frequent are they, though?
Well, now it's getting more frequent because, again, I think everybody's tired of not being able to socialize. Everybody believes, it has calmed down or the pandemic is over. In fact, sometimes in conversation, you hear people say, now that COVID is over. Are you sure? Yeah, people believe it's a bit calmer now, save for the recent spike. But all intimate events, and I think that's going to be around for a while.
Yeah. So, I mean, as intimate as they are, like I said, we still have a couple of weddings, especially weddings, because with weddings, it's harder to limit numbers because we know how our extended family unit works here in Nigeria. What are you, as a company now, as a brand with your own company, what are you working with in December going forward, especially because there's fears that by January we'll see the result of all of this?
So what we've done is, what we're doing, and then again, by intimate, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go on.
So by intimate, don't forget, a typical event in Nigeria, a typical wedding is about 1,000 guests. That's a normal wedding. A small wedding is about 500 guests. So now we have like 100 max, 50. So that's a relative figure to it.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we try to, like, when we work, we try to definitely our mask up. Everybody has sanitizers. Now, normally we set up an event just like a night before the event, but now we ask for more time so we can set up and have a clear, almost enough hours for disinfection before guests come in, and things like that, and just try to keep safe, with ourselves. That's for the company, but then for the host, well, we are not always there when the party starts, so that way.
Well, thank you very much. I guess the message here is just to all Nigerians to realize that their fate is in their hands. As much as we are being told what to do, we also need to take responsibility for ourselves, and hopefully we all get through this year and start the fresh year safe and healthy. Thanks for joining us, Deborah Nugonaya. We'll take a break now and be right back. Please don't go away.
We represent